I'm Vita Murrow, author of Once Upon Our Planet, a new collection of 12 stories to Rewild bedtime. You may know some of my other books like High Five to the Hero and Power to the Princess, or my new series, True Stories of Animal Heroes, starring Onyx and Fluffles, and soon to be welcoming Sterling and Talala. But today, together with artist and illustrator Aitch and my friends at Magic Cat, I'm very excited to share this new title with you. Let's look at it together. I start all my books with a big idea. And the big idea for this book is that everyone should have special stories that tie them to nature and the wild spaces that are a part of the planet we call home. Stories of nature are one way to honor the bond between people and places we live. Stories like these have been told by all people in all places for as long as we have had language, and that includes the languages of gesture and drawing. We tell stories like these among family, between friends, and as part of traditions in our cultures and communities. We tell these stories to remind us of our role in taking care of nature, so we can learn about what makes natural places special, and so we can stay connected to the ancestors and spirits who have left their mark in the natural places where we live. The 12 stories in this book are set at some of the front lines of our changing planet. Places where the water is rising and will someday cover the land, or where weather has changed, causing dry spells or big storms, fires or floods. Places where plants and animals are needing to find new ways to live. That includes us humans, and makes it extra important that we keep this tradition of storytelling so we can hold on to the natural spaces that are special to us. Today, I'm going to read aloud from one of the stories in the collection. I like them all for different reasons, and the art by Aitch makes them all my favorites. And I've selected one today from the middle of the book to show you that this is the kind of book you can read stories from in any order, anytime. Joining in a storytelling tradition means the tales in this book might feel familiar. You may recognize the way a story is told, a conversation, or a circle story. You may notice characters or animals you know, a sea monster or other magical creatures, or even natural place itself that can be a character. Also, look for evidence of people. Before reading, I like to do some pre-thinking and take a picture walk. I can observe from the cover that the book centers around plants, lots of plants, animals, and the whole wide world. I see fruit I've tasted, I see animals I'd love to meet, and I see a bit of magic, so I know to expect that inside. I find the story I want to read using the table of contents. It has a list of all 12 stories. Today, I'll be reading Once Upon an Island. Before writing this story, I'll show it to you on page 50. There it is. Before writing this story, I took time to learn about the part of our planet where the story takes place, the Maldives. I learned that the Maldives are islands in the Indian Ocean surrounded by very deep waters. As our planet warms and changes, the deep waters are becoming higher and higher, and soon they will be so high it will be hard for plants to grow on the islands. Learning this made me want to tell the story from the point of view of a plant. You can see here I chose palm trees. I spent lots of time learning about these trees. I also learned about the Maldives storytelling tradition. This includes tales of spirits and monsters, fables with local animals, seafaring stories, and recallings of historical events. Many stories include 2 or more of these things and are handed down from an older generation to a younger one. In my story, I wanted to connect to many of these same paths. So I wrote about 2 generations of palm trees who are helped by a local animal, you can see them here, and learn from the storytelling of an island elder. Let's begin. Once upon an island. Locate in your mind a place where curving sandbanks give way to tranquil sea waters, where a crop of islands is spread wide. Atop these islands, position abiding towers, coconut trees. For generations, these islands have endured rains that saturate, waves that carve, and winds that test. In a constant state of transformation, these islands will someday yield to the sea. Therefore, existence has long been a topic of discussion here. This is one such conversation. Once upon an island, there were 2 coconut trees. They craned over the turquoise waters. One was tall, the other short. On a hot and gusty day, as heavy clouds rolled in the distance, the tallest of the trees turned to the smallest. I suspect this next storm will be my last, the tall tree, named Hassan, sighed. Your last? The smaller tree, called Sita, asked, aghast. As days wear on, we coconut trees are less and less appreciated, Hassan explained. What do you mean? Sita asked her elder innocently, for she saw their world through fresh eyes. Her fronds were bright, and she was without the flowers of a more seasoned tree. Once we were everything here, the big tree said, slumping their leaves toward the water. Look around, little Sita. Now we're just part of the background. Sita saw that some guests of the island, who dwelt in tall boxes and arrived on watercrafts and air machines, frolicked along the sandy circumference and paid them little regard. We've been reduced to just a place to hang a hammock, Hassan lamented. Thunder emanated from beneath the dark clouds, and the sky mirrored Hassan's mood. The end is near for me, Hassan brooded. The elder tree released a loose coconut with a thud. Sita worried for her elder. Hassan had guided and protected her. Some of her roots were even entwined with his. She wanted to reassure him and stretched her roots deep into the earth to find his. But when Sita tugged at Hassan's roots, she found they were not fixed. He was beginning to lose his grip on the island. Sita could feel that he was vulnerable. Hassan sagged further toward the water. A gray heron zipped ashore on the salty air, eager to get ahead of the weather. With it, an idea came to Sita. A bird friend, she called to the gray heron. Yes, little Palm, the heron cried. Come and sit with me, I need your help, Sita invited. The heron came to rest atop Sita's leaves. You see the strong elder beside me. He has lost his purpose, she explained. Can you help me? I'm young and I am still learning, but you have seen many things. The gray heron nodded, accepting the challenge. Uncle Palm, he called, turning to the elder tree. Your leaves are the island's very reason for being. I come and go, but you remain here steadfastly. I'll prove it. Follow my path, the gray heron proclaimed and lifted to the sky. Sita nudged Hassan out of his funk. Hassan, do you see the great heron? She called to Hassan, who shrugged. He's going to take us on a tour. First, the gray heron flew to a market lined with stalls. There, the island's people were cooling off after a day of hustle in the steamy sun. They could be seen quenching their thirst with milk from mature coconuts. They sipped through the smiling face holes at the top, then cracked open their shell and scooped out the tissue to fill their bellies. The coconut was the centerpiece of their day's end relief. See here, the gray heron called to the trees. Those coconuts, they fell from your branches. Look, said Sita, impressed. She shook her fledgling branches in Hassan's direction.
Your coconuts mean something. Hassan looked briefly, but turned back to the water. The waves grew as the storm neared, and the gray heron zoomed between the trees, and the duo watched as the bird swooped near a small boat. Sita leaned over the water to get a better look and saw that the boat was made from palms, much like her and Hassan's. The unmistaken pattern of the trunk was carved with seagoing designs. Sita beamed up at Hassan. He humored her and nodded. The gray heron followed the vessel as it disembarked, and its sailors carried bundles ashore. They strode to a spot on the beach where fallen palm leaves had been collected and stacked together to form a shelter. The sailors gathered under its protection as the storm's first raindrops landed. The sailors dug a nook in the sand and layered cut wood with dried leaves and their catch from the sea. Soon it was alit and warming them all. More islanders joined with open coconuts, herbs, and plants in generous baskets woven from palm leaves. "Well, would you look at that?" Sita marveled. "It does look festive," Hassan had to admit. The rain became a downpour, but the assembled islanders remained dry in the shelter. They laid their offerings on the fire, and soon savory, smoky, spicy, and sweet smells filled the air. Little ones ran to huddle close to the fire and take the first bites of the cooked fish. The gray heron, knowing they were messy eaters, lingered for morsels that he might snap up. In spite of the merriment, the storm still beset the little island. As it arrived in full, Hassan nearly returned to the doldrums. That's his bad mood. The gray heron let out a squawk to keep his attention, and Hassan looked closely at the scene before him. He saw that the island inhabitants did not retreat. Instead, they carried on with their feast under the palm leaf shelter. Something came over him, and Hassan quietly held fast too. When the thunder was loud, the little ones were scared. One of the inhabitants took out a whistle and a toy figure. They danced the figure in one hand and played on the whistle with the other, and the little ones laughed. Even the gray heron danced along. The evening wore on, and the storm lost its energy. A gentle pitter-patter of rain became the background music. Stars showed themselves in the night sky, and a new mood took over the inhabitants. As the little ones became sleepy, the fire died down, leaving rosy embers. The islanders formed a tight circle with a singular focal point. It was one of their elders. Oil was poured from a coconut into seashells and lit from the ends of the fire to create luminaries. They read like stars on the sand. The elder islander took a palm broom in one hand and swept the area in front of them. They took a shell and drew a story in the wet sand. All eyes were on this one wise storyteller, and Hassan became immersed in their tale. The story told of the great palm tree who delivered everything necessary to make the island a home. The elder drew a towering tree, and as they worked, gestured at Hassan, the model and inspiration for their story. Sita looked to Hassan too. His quietness had changed from that of foreboding to something softer, warmer. Sita could feel his roots stretch beside her own, a great yawn in preparation for a pleasant rest. When the story was over, the inhabitants of the island dispersed from the palm pavilion. The elder was the last to leave. They extinguished the lamps and poured the coconut oil from the shells into their hair. Sita and Hassan watched as the elder combed the coconut oil in. It brought a shine to their hair so strong that the moon was reflected. The elder then kneaded the remaining coconut oil on their skin and into their muscles. They stretched tall like a tree and grew a whole inch before their eyes. They reached wide like a palm leaf, and their limbs moved with elegant ease. And when they went on their way, Hassan, Sita, and the gray heron saw a spring in their step, usually reserved to one much younger. Sita turned to Hassan, ready to pepper him with ideas and happy observations, but instead, Hassan hushed her with his own thoughts. "I see now, little palm. We coconut trees are more than our fruits and flowers. We are more than materials and pieces. We are the center for those who call our island their home. We must stay here as long as they are here. Sita bent her trunk beneath his. The gray heron rested on top. Their story's our story, little palm. It belongs to all of us, said Hassan.
I hope you'll tell your own stories that connect you to the wild places in your part of our planet. This story in particular makes me think of a writing prompt. You might like to try it. Here it is. Throughout the world, there are many trees that have stood in the same place for hundreds of years. A little like Hassan from our island story. Write your own short story about all the historic events and changes that one of these trees has seen. Maybe you know a tree in a park, in your neighborhood, or in the countryside. Perhaps you know a tree on a farm or by the sea. When I think of a steadfast tree from my own life, I think of a great evergreen tree my family planted when I was little beside the first home I remember living in. Now it is as tall as the house. I can imagine it has seen many, many things. Please share your reading and storytelling with me on social media at Vita Murrow and by tagging #MoonLaneTV. You can purchase Once Upon Our Planet everywhere books are sold, especially at Moon Lane. Thanks, friends.